Hello everyone, a very good morning, good afternoon and good evening to all. Myself Vaibhav. In this session of JForex Indicators Explained, I will be explaining to you the uses, the characteristics, the functioning of the indicator named midpoint over a period. This indicator gives you a good idea of the average pricing for the underlying instrument in the given time period. So we get the direction of the underlying instrument. If it is on the rise or it is in decline, we can make a sense of its price move, and we can sort out the noise. We can get a clearer picture of what's actually happening in the volatile dynamic market scenario. So let us now head to the JForex 4 platform, which has been developed by the Dukascopy Bank SA. This is the Euro USD chart with the candle period being hourly. I have plotted this midpoint over a period for last 14 periods. The calculation period, the default calculation period is 14. That means these 14 candles are being used to arrive at this price, the mid price. And mathematically speaking, the midpoint is simply the half of the highest point and the lowest point, the addition of the highest point and the lowest point we take, and then we divide it by 2, arrive at the midpoint. Now you can observe here, as the price started to rise and there was significant jump in the price move, we saw that the midpoint started to go up in a similar fashion, and as the price stabilized and no more new highs are being formed on the closing basis, we have seen this midpoint also stabilizing in this price range. So we get a directional move. We get to know if the uptrend is there or if the downtrend is there, and what is the average price over the given period. So we can make then the assessment if there has been significant deviation already, or we can expect this move to continue. So there are many interpretation, many uses which we can take of this midpoint data. The classical thing is that if the midpoint series is on the rise and the price is closer to the midpoint, then we can go for, or we can keep looking for the buy trade. And if we see that the midpoint over a period is in decline and the price for the underlying instrument is finding resistance close to that point, then it is better to look for short selling opportunities. Or one simple interpretation is, as long as the price for the underlying instrument is above this midpoint over that given period, then you should be in favor of going long. And if the price is below this midpoint over that given period, then it is better to keep looking for short selling opportunities. So that is one way to look at it. It is mostly used as a kind of moving average only. In moving average also we take the average price and we see what is happening here. Even if there are significant moves on one direction, as happened in the today's session after the release of the CPI data, we saw that even after the significant jump, it took some time for this midpoint to rise higher. And since the applied price is on the closing basis, we will have a lot more stability in this case. So we can make our assessment while cancelling out the noise. So that is one important reason to rely on this indicator. So this indicator helps us in a volatile market to figure out the trend, and with that we can make the informed trading decisions whether to go long or whether to go for short sales or simply to sit on the sidelines. And if the underlying instrument is not really going anywhere, then what we will observe, what we will happen is that we will get this kind of moves where there is a range, the defined range, and whenever we see significant deviation from that, we can also start looking for some correction, possible catch up of the price action with this average price. So that can also be expected whenever there is a significant deviation. So that retracement kind of trades can also be taken. So you can also look for overbought or oversold trade, or you can simply trade with the trend. So both these things are possible with this indicator. Now let us consider what are the customization options provided to us on this platform. This is the editing option given to us, and we have this price. The input price is the close price for this Euro USD chart, and if I change the applied price, you will observe that this line, the midpoint over a period, will change. As see, this midpoint is arrived simply by adding the highest and the lowest of that applied price and then dividing it by 2. Now if we take open price instead of close price, there is going to be some change. It has now shifted. Let me check. So there is slight change here. If I go for high price, we will observe significant change here. Please pay attention to this line. The output for the current rate for the midpoint is 1.029. If I change it to say close price, then it has shifted on the lower side. And if I make a low price, then it is significantly lower. You can also use multiple midpoints of different applied prices, and that can help you in making trading decisions. If the trend is upside is on the upside, but you want to take the trade closer to this lowest point possible, the midpoint of the lowest point, then you can take that uh, take that trade, and we can make that assessment and accordingly can go for that trade, or we can simply sit on the sideline. So these are both the options we can exercise after making this observation using this tool of the midpoint. Now let us try the median price. It has slightly shifted on the higher side. Typical price, where we use all the three prices, the high, the low, the close, and then divide it by 3. The weighted close price, where we give more weightage to the closing price. So these are the possibilities, these are the various options provided to us. Now what we will try, we will use one midpoint of the high price and another one of the low price. So I will add, wait, I think here it has again been restored to the close price. So all right, so we have this midpoint of the high price. Now if I add midpoint over a period, and the applied price will have to be changed to the lowest point, low price. So we get this band, and we can take the direction into account, and if we want to take the buy trade, then we try to go for the buy trade closer to this lowest point of this band. And whenever we are looking for short selling opportunities, we can look to go short closer to this the midpoint of the high value. So we will have this price directional band, and we will be able to make the assessment of the direction as well as the optimum entry point in that situation. Now here there are some additional options now available to us, that earlier we were using the candle price. The applied price was the candle's high price, close price, or all these options given to us. But if there is one existing indicator in place, then we can take that indicator's output price over the given period as the input price for this new indicator, and then we have we have here the midpoint of that indicator's price. So this is the low priced one. Let me check this one. Okay, so this line is the midpoint of the low price. So this is the derivative of this midpoint series, and this is go- going to be less responsive to the price fluctuation, but it will give you a better idea of the trend. It will bring in more stability, as you can observe from this plotting. Or you can also make a system where if and when there is a change or there is crossover of this actual midpoint series from one side to another on this midpoint of the midpoint, you can take it as a signal also. Here you see that this midpoint over the period crosses below this midpoint of the midpoint, then you can take it as a bearish signal, and as and when we will have the midpoint over a period crossing above the midpoint of the midpoint, then we can take it as the bullish signal. So that can also be done, or you can simply use it to cancel out the noise to reduce the many false signals generated whenever there is too much of volatility in the underlying instrument. So that can also be done. Now I will have to remove one. So I will remove this midpoint of the midpoint. Okay, to bring in the clarity, bring in simplicity. Now let us see what more can be done. We can vary the calculation period. Currently we are using the default setup of 14. Suppose if you want to take the more data while arriving at the average price, suppose if you simply want to consider 2 days worth of data, then I think taking 48 as the input parameter for the calculation of the candle period will be good idea. And in this case, there will be a lot more stability as it will be calculated using last 2 days of data, as we are using 48 and the candle period is hourly. So we are basically looking at the midpoint over last 48 hours. So unless and until there is a new low or new high formation taking place, this midpoint will tend to remain constant, and only when there is change, if the lowest point of that period or if the highest point of that period changes, only in that scenario there's a new plotting, new value for the midpoint will arise. So you get a good idea of the trend. There is a lot more stability, and you can then make the informed choices. So even in the scenario where the underlying instrument is simply moving in a range bound manner in a limited range, you won't have to you won't have to worry about too many signals being generated which are not going to bring us much amount of money. So even in the sideways kind of market moves, there is going to be stability on this plotting of the indicator, and you can then make the informed choice. If the larger time frame trend is bullish or bearish or simply sideways, you can then make the trade decision keeping all these factors in mind. Now that we have this highest point formation in place, unless and until a new high is formed in coming hours, this midpoint will remain constant for next couple of hours. So we get the idea that this initial spurt is now subsiding, and if we want to take the new trade, then we will have to allow some consolidation to happen. And if it holds well above this midpoint, then I think we can be in position to go for new buy trade. So that is how we can make the use of this midpoint. Coming to this further editing option, we now reduce it to just 24. Okay, so if we look at the current days plotting for the midpoint, then you can notice that it was in bullish rising trajectory, and then this big spurt happened after the CPI data came in for the United States. And earlier last week it was in bearish trajectory, then it changed, it started to move higher, again it declined. So this is a quite useful indicator. Now let us consider what can be done in terms of the aesthetics to make chart look more colorful or more trendy. So we have this option of going with a two color combination for trend up and trend down. We can simply keep same color, or if you want to make it easier to identify the direction of the indicators plotting simply by looking at its color combination, then you can change this color combination anytime, and you can give two distinct colors and it will show up, so that will become much more easier. You can make it more stylish if you want. You can increase or decrease the width, and there is this option with the transparency also. If you don't want your chart to look too cluttered, then you can reduce the transparency. So here this is the same indicator, but it is looking a bit different in terms of the plotting, in terms of the color combination styling, and we are using two different colors. So if the trend is upward, if the midpoint over the period is on the rise, then we have this whitish line. If it is in decline, then we have this yellowish brownish line. Okay, then comes the level. We don't really have any options here. Then there are some advanced editing options provided to us. If we want the output value for the midpoint to remain constant over the current candle period, then we simply have to opt for this recalculate on new candle only. And if we opt for this, then only when new candle formation takes place, this midpoint line will be plotted and it will remain there for the whole of candle period's time. If we want the calculation time period to be highlighted, then we can opt for this, and whenever we go for that, the I think because the transparency is a lot lower, because of that we are not really observing the highlighted portion. Let me see, highlight the time period zone. Okay, so it is being highlighted, but it is not that prominent. Last 24 hours worth of data gets highlighted here. Calculate from the custom data. If you want the input values to be customized further, you can keep the instrument fixed, or you can simply use it from the chart. So whenever you use different instrument, on all those instruments the plotting will be done. But if you only opt for one instrument, then only one instrument will have these midpoint over the period plotted, and no other instrument will show it. Same thing applies for the candle period also. If you opt for use from the chart, then all the candle periods, whenever you change from one candle period to another, will have these indicators plotted. But if you keep it fixed to say 1 hour or 4 hours, and in that case only that particular candle period will have the indicator plotted. The side, you can use ask or bid side as per the requirement, or you can simply use from the chart. If I opt for this show indicator on all periods, then whenever we change it from one time frame to another, it will show up. But if we opt out of that option, then we will have to specify on which time frame we want this indicator to be shown, and only on those time frames the indicator will appear on the chart, and in rest of the time frame no indicator plotting will be done for the midpoint over a period. It is taking some time for this chart to load up, I think because net is slow or something like that. Let's see. All right, 4 hour has been plotted quite quickly. Okay, so I hope you got the basic idea of these indicators, uses, functionality, how you can customize it on these platform. So that was my purpose of this explanatory session. And if you have any query or any idea to share, you can write back to me in the feedback section, and I would be more than happy to take the discussion forward. For further coverage of the market developments, do check out the Dukascopy analytics page. We are also available on the Facebook. You can reach out to us there too. For trying out this newly released platform, the link has also been included in the bio. Thank you all for joining in. I will be back tomorrow with a new indicator, and we will consider what we can do with that particular indicator's combination to optimize our trading system. That's it for the day. I am signing off now. See you next time. Till then, goodbye.